Hello everybody, and welcome back to more Overwatch. Ana got released, which is the new hero, and it's pretty freaking sweet, so I figured I'd talk about her for a bit, because I think there is a lot to talk about here. But I want to preface this with, what you're seeing in the background are like my first couple games with her, and I think that's important because it gives you, one, an idea of what it might be like for your first few games playing as her, and it also exaggerates that she is actually a fairly hard character to play. That said, I typically suck with these kind of hit scan characters. Like, I can't hit anything with Widow, and she has a very similar fire rate and the way that she actually tracks shots and everything. So I'm not that. I need more practice, is what it is. That's really all it boils down to. Is I just need more practice with her, and then I would be fine. And the same thing goes for Widow. But I typically am really good with characters that have a lot of lead time, such as Hanzo or Pharah. Like Pharah being my best character, because I played a lot of Unreal Tournament and the weapons that were involved in those games, including also playing a lot of PlanetSide 2. And what I did in PlanetSide 2 is I play tanks. Like I was the person who drove a tank around and shot things out of the sky most of the time, and less stuff on the ground, because I'm really comfortable with that playstyle of leading the target and like lining up a shot that might arc even. And I'm just not that good with snipers. That said, I really do enjoy Ana. I think she's a lot of fun to play, and she's really good. She's really good in the right hands in particular. So what is her kit? Well, she is actually a support character. She's a healer, so she heals. It's really simple. But the thing is, she shoots, like when she shoots her shot, it both does damage or heal. So like depending on what you do, and if you shoot an ally with it, obviously it's going to heal them. If you shoot an enemy with it, obviously it's going to do damage. Now, what I had assumed this was going to be like when I first heard about her, bearing in mind I did not play the PTR because I wanted to try her when she came out. The thing with it is that I was expecting some burst damage, as in you shoot and it does the damage straight away, like Widow. And the same thing goes for the heals. I was expecting the heal to do the exact same thing, to burst heal people up. It is a pretty low rate of fire, but I was expecting the heal to be immediate. Instead, her damage and her heal are a little heal over time and a little damage over time, which is pretty cool, because like when you do the damage over the time effect, you really need a few shots to be able to kill somebody with it, but it's cool because you can fire and then start healing your other guys, and you're still doing that damage to those people. Granted, if it was a burst thing, it would automatically do that, damage right off the bat, and then maybe it would be a little bit better. But overall, I think it's a cool concept, a cool idea that she has a damage over time effect and a heal over time effect. I think the heal over time actually works quite well, though I would prefer the damage. So that's her like main thing. That's her gun. You don't shoot any different. She has the aim down sights, or aim down the scope like Widow does, except hers doesn't have the little charge up thing. And then she can left click and shoot. But she also has her shift, which is like a little sleeping dart, so you can stun people, and this is really powerful. This is where a lot of her power actually does come from, is you can sleep dart someone who's using their ultimate. So say a Pharah starts doing Justice, you can aim up at her and shift and just make her go to sleep. Stop that ult, and it does interrupt it. Same thing for if you see, because you're typically standing further back, if you see a Reaper come in, start using Death Lotus, you could do the same thing to him. You can sleep a Junkrat or a Roadhog when they're using their ult. Like you could sleep them and cancel their ult out, which is really cool. Although the Junkrat, I think it would just keep going anyways. But it is a really cool concept, and I really do like that. And then finally, her E is like AoE heal. So it's like a burst heal. She could throw it down on the ground. It heals in an area, right? It's pretty simple little thing, but it hits everybody there. So it means that you can also hit enemies with it. And when you hit enemies with it, it stops healing on them. So you can, use it to heal. Like, let's say, for example, a Reaper runs in, your Reaper, you use the heal on him to keep him alive, and then maybe you shoot him. But at the same time, he's going to be kind of in the middle of stuff if he's about to Death Lotus or Blossom or whatever it's called. And then everybody around him will not be receiving heals. So imagine you throw it on him, so you get the heal on him, so he's alive, and everybody else is debuffed, and then Zenyatta uses his ultimate to try to keep everybody alive from the Death Blossom, but what ends up happening is they have the debuff on them. They can't be healed back up. And Zenyatta's stuff isn't an immunity. It's an actual heal. It's a heal it's a fairly powerful heal over time, but it would be a pretty cool counter to that. And I like her kit. I think her kit is something that fits her very, very well, but she is very hard to play because you have to be good at sniping, or at least moderately good at sniping. It is much easier to hit your friendly targets because they're typically not behind walls and trying to avoid you than it is to hit the enemy. So, you know, you have to be moderately good at sniping in order to make sure you hit 90% of your shots to keep your team alive. But it is important that you be able to do that. There are some characters that are much easier to hit than others. Tanks are really easy to heal because they're huge. You don't need to get a headshot. It's not going to make any difference on them. But the thing is, if you try to heal a Genji who's jumping around, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So the skill curve, I would say, comes into play based on what your team is playing. There are some characters that are going to be really hard to hit. D.Va out of her mech, really hard to hit. Especially if they don't know that you're trying to heal them and they're running around and jumping and everything. It's going to be a little harder to hit. So yeah, there's that. But I think her ultimate is probably one of the little coolest things about her that I wasn't expecting, which is basically, if you've played StarCraft, it's like a stim for Marines. You put it on them, it increases their movement speed, their damage, everything, and it's crazy. So it's really good to put on people who are gonna run it, like Soldier or Reaper or even like a Reinhardt and stuff. It's really cool. I like it a lot. I think it's a cool ultimate. It charges pretty quickly, so you get to use it very often. But knowing when to use it will take a bit of skill. So with, you know, the release of Ana, I think it's worth noting that she is so elegantly designed. And I'm not talking about her looks. I think she's really cool, and the fact that she's Pharah's mom makes me want to play her because I'm really good with Pharah, and that's just like my thing. So it'd be like, I should be good with the whole family. It's probably not going to be the case, but either way, it's not her character design I'm talking about. It's her abilities and the way that they made her into a healing sniper. You know, like if you think about it, and this is why I think it's so elegant, is you had a large section of players that play things like Counter-Strike or, well, actually any like modern military shooter, to be honest. And there's a big group of them that will snipe. And there's a big group of like pro players that are really good at sniping. So what they end up doing is they end up playing a lot of Widow. Just go to Twitch, look at it, like especially that first couple weeks that Overwatch was out, you saw a lot of Widowmakers because that's just generally a lot of the shooter population are really good at sniping, and that was the character to play if you were good at sniping. Well, now what it's done is it's made it so that those players that are good at sniping, that are good with Widowmaker, have a way to still play with the team if they don't need a Widowmaker. Because now they can heal. Now they're fulfilling a different role, but they're still having a very similar gameplay. The gameplay does vary, but it is similar enough that you can get used to the shot timing and everything, and you can keep your team alive. And if you're really freaking good at sniping, you know what? You're going to be a pretty good Ana. And I think that is so elegant because it solves two problems. It solves the problem of there not being another good support, and now there is. And it's not just another good support, it's a unique support. Now this support has many different options with her. You know, it's like she's going to be used in different scenarios than a Mercy or a Lucio. Maybe in some cases she'll be a good double support. So not only does it solve that issue, but it also solves the issue of that one guy who only ever wants to play Widowmaker. Now if you have no healer, he has another option. And that's oh man, like Blizzard has really lately been killing it with the the elegant designs on pretty much all of their games. They've had something really cool that they've been adding that feels like I had a lot of thought put into it. And you know what? If at the end of the day they add another character that also has very similar like thought process put behind it, like how do we solve issues that the game currently has by adding a character, and how would that fix things? That's just, it's really smart. It's good design. Along with this patch, by the way, there was also a few other things that changed. They tried to help competitive mode by making sure when you are playing that you can only pick one of the heroes. So like you can't have two tracers on your team in competitive anymore. That doesn't affect normal, like quick play or anything like that. But in competitive, you can only have one of each on your team, which I think it's an interesting change. It's a cool change, but I like it the other way. I don't see the issue typically. Like if someone wanted to go 6 Winston, I'm really good at Reaper, so I liked to see that because it would be really good for me. But at the same time, I see why they did it. And I could kind of agree with it. Let's see how it works out, and if they change it back, then they change it back, and whatever, no big deal. It's cool that they're experimenting, though. And then finally, they adjusted other characters. Like they gave Zenyatta more health, so hopefully he's a bit better. And they just, across the board, tried to help or hinder those who were really good or really bad. And either way, adding a new character in the form of Ana is going to... It's going to change things regardless of what you want, like, out of it. There's no way that the game won't change by adding a new character. And I have no problem with them shaking up the meta, as, people would say, by adding new characters. And anything they add in the future, as long as it's fairly different than everything else, it's going to make sure that the game is played very differently. In like these cases, like how do you counter a Ana, or in our case, like the game you're seeing in the background right now, we had 5 Ana and then we switched to 4. Like, it's a stupid strategy, and I think it's kind of funny because all of us wanted to try her, but at the same time, it's it's for Ana. Like, you're not going to see that in a normal game typically. So how do you counter her if there's just 1 or maybe 2 of her in like a quick play match? Let's say 1 and she's like doing a really good job of keeping your people alive. Well, then she's still the same kind of character that Widowmaker is, so you still counter her the same way. Winston or Genji, people like that. Reaper coming up behind is a really good one because they're weak to people being up close, as opposed to, like if you were trying to counter a Reaper, you don't go tank because it's his thing. Like, that's what he kills. So it's the same thing. Like, if you're trying to counter a Ana, unless you're a really good Widowmaker or Hanzo, then you're not going to do too well with that. So you better, go to some of the more typical counters for snipers, which is fine. But yeah, I like her. I think she's really fun. She plays well. There could be some things that could be improved. I think her fire rate feels a little slow. Actually, no, that's not what it is. It's not that her fire rate feels slow. I just realized it's that the gun sound doesn't sound right. It sounds like a silenced weapon, and I get why it's like that, so that, as you're healing, you're not having people come and, sneak up behind you. Like, Widowmaker's gun is so loud, so you know when she's shooting at you. But with Ana, it's not that way. But unfortunately, the person wielding it, the person using it, doesn't get any benefit out of that because it sounds kind of wimpy. It's like, patoo, and it doesn't feel good. So like if they could change the sound, make it a bit meatier for the immediate player, I think it would be a bit better. And that's really all of the feedback that I have on it. I think she's really good. I think people are going, it's going to be polarizing. People are either going to think that she's really, really good or really, really bad. And you're going to see people who are really good at the game, that play Counter-Strike. And like Summit might be a really good example of this. He plays a lot of Counter-Strike. He's good at sniping. He's really good at Widowmaker. I want to see him with Ana. I wonder how he would do with Ana, because it's the same gameplay type, just a different style. Suddenly you're having to look at your own friendlies and you're having to deal with the team more. It's really cool. Let me know what you think about her, if you've been able to play, or if you find her mildly interesting, and including the character design. I think her design is pretty cool, like adding this older, experienced, like grizzled woman into the fray, who happens to be the mother of one of the other characters. I think that's cool. I like it a lot. But I mean, you know how I feel about Overwatch. That being said, I haven't been playing a lot of it because I want to play competitive, and I don't feel like competitive is still in a place that I want to enjoy it from. So I've been doing other things, like playing WoW, which is not something I ever thought I would say again, but it is something that I'm doing. So with that, let me know what you think of her, and we shall see you guys next time.